We're going to Miami. Sorry. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Hair Transplant Mentor YouTube channel. My name is Joe Tillman, and if you don't know what a Hair Transplant Mentor is, you can learn all about it at hairtransplantmentor.com. So subscribers to my channel know that when I say it's a good day, it usually means I'm going to be introducing a new doctor. So without further ado, the clinic is Miami Hair Institute, and the doctor is Dr. Aron Nusbaum. I really get excited when I find doctors that aren't really well known that I think are world-class, and in this case, younger doctors that, in my personal belief, are going to be the future leaders of the industry. And I think that once this video is complete, you'll understand why I believe Dr. Aron Nusbaum is one of those future leaders. Now, before we get into the results from Dr. Nusbaum, I think it's important to get into a little bit about Dr. Nusbaum himself, a little bit about his background, and among those things is his backstory. When you look at the fact that he's in his early to mid 30s and consider the fact that he's also got close to 30 years of exposure to hair restoration, what? Yeah, he's in his mid 30s, but he's been around hair restoration since he was 5 years old because his father is one of the OG masters of hair restoration from the 1990s and early 2000s, Dr. Bernard Nusbaum. Yeah, so hair restoration surgery is in his blood. He grew up in a hair transplant family, and he was telling me that he's got memories from being as young as 5 or 6 years old where his pop would bring him into the clinic and would set him down at a microscope to play with, hair shafts just to keep him busy, just to keep him out of the way while he was doing his work. So he got started really early, got a lot of exposure to the industry early on, and even through high school he was in the clinic all the time helping out after school or even on weekends. And another thing I like about Dr. Nusbaum is he does believe in the idea that surgery is the last resort. You got to deal with prevention because hair loss is continuous and surgery does not stop hair loss. And here we are in May 2020, and I believe that he has reached the point where I see a great future for him. He's already kicking out some awesome results, and he's met my standards for membership in the Hair Transplant Mentor collection of exceptional hair restoration specialists. So let's just jump right into the results. This next case looks like about a Norwood 4A, and he does present with really fine hair. It's straight, very good for naturalness. But what I want you to pay attention to, besides the area of loss, is this area in the frontal forelock region. The hair still exists, it's just low density, it's thinned out obviously, but it's still making a difference for the guy. But I want you to pay attention to the angle of how these hairs are exiting the scalp. This is how hair is supposed to be. It exits at a fairly flat angle to the plane of the scalp. And then when we look at the result a year later, this is 2,218 grafts. Look at this temple, how the graft work flows with that natural hair angle that the patient had before surgery. This is what good work is all about. This is one of the things that defines naturalness with a hair transplant result. When you get the hairline and any hair on the scalp, it's placed to match the angle direction of the hair that was existing before the hair transplant occurred. And Dr. Aron Nusbaum has done this. It looks fantastic. Let's look at the donor region. Here's a photo where he's got the donor scar bisected with the comb to show that hair is growing in the scar. It looks like a trichophytic closure that would not reveal that this was a strip surgery, much less any sort of hair transplant to begin with. Awesome job. Here's another case of 2,214 grafts, again with an FUT strip procedure. This time we're only looking at 6 months post-op, and we can see the right temple angle and the hairline in this image, and then of course the straight-on shot. 6 months later, really nice growth. It's not finished yet, there's more to come. But what I like about this is Dr. Nusbaum has started recording with video on some of his results, and the donor region, as he's combing through, looks untouched. I mean, this is the very definition of a beautiful, safe, natural strip procedure with zero cosmetic deficit and all kinds of positive cosmetic gain. Did I say that right? I like this case because it exhibits a strategic use of grafts and pre-existing native hair for the ultimate result. 2,091 grafts were placed in the frontal zone. He looks like he's about Norwood 3A with some residual hairs in the forelock, but when we look at the final result and then zoom in on this left temple, you can see that there's some residual native hair right in front of where the grafts were placed. And this is the mark of smart strategic planning, because any respectable hair transplant surgeon will tell you that there is no substitute for Mother Nature. And if you can take advantage of what Mother Nature has placed on the scalp to make your own result look the best it can be, then that's the way you want to do it. You don't want to, I mean, you can't do better than Mother Nature. So why not incorporate what's there into your own result? If you do that, you're going to have the best result possible, and it looks like that's what he did here, because the native hairs are still in front of the surgical work, and it blends in so that it makes it even less detectable as a hair transplant. Smart thinking. Good job. I'm happy to be sharing this case because I think it also exhibits some of the finer details that superior hair restoration physicians will include in their work. And in this case, patient's about a Norwood 4A, and he only received 1,726 grafts, again an FUT strip procedure, but it exhibits the details that I like to see that show me the doctor knows what he's doing. So when we look at this result 6 months after the procedure, we can see that the angulation, the angle that the grafts are exiting the scalp is fairly flat to the plane of the scalp. So you can see that they're kind of exiting fairly flat, and this is what natural hair does. This is how hair grows usually on the scalp, and it creates a 100% natural result that no one will be able to pick out as being a hair transplant. Here's a pretty cool hairline. Again, another FUT strip case. Only 1,415 grafts placed in the very frontal zone, basically the first couple centimeters of the hairline. Then we got the final result. Looks really good, looks really natural. He's spiking his hair. Obviously he's got to be happy with this, because I think I would be, so good job. Loving the angle on this result. Real quick, it's 1,380 grafts into the hairline. We're focusing on the right temple region before comb up, showing the lack of density in the native hair, and then 6 months later we've got the same shot, same angle, same comb, probably same comb, also showing the new density, but also the naturalness. Single hair grafts looking really sharp. Good job. Got a lovely little crown case for you. I love crown work. Dr. Nusbaum looks like he understands the nature of how crowns are supposed to be recreated. You can see the before image here. The direction is laid out in the preoperative planning. This is the kind of case where I would expect at least 1,500 grafts to even 2,000 grafts would be necessary. Dr. Nusbaum put in only 1,288 grafts, and then 6 months later, you can see that there's a great improvement. And the thing about crowns is everyone talks about how crowns take longer to fill in than other regions of the scalp. And there's anecdotal evidence for that, like there's some supporting evidence, but in this case, 6 months was all it's needed. It will improve some more, we got to assume. So even at 6 months, most people will be super happy with this. I know I would be, and looks great. And subscribers to this channel understand that when I'm introducing new doctors, one of the requirements that they have to meet is their ability to deal with repair patients. And we've got a couple of repair cases here where Dr. Nusbaum shows that he is proficient with repair work. First up is a scar revision case. The patient had 3 prior strip surgeries with a different clinic. You can see the scar here. It's not horrible. It's not, you know, grotesque or anything, but it is certainly wider than most patients would want to deal with. And 1 scar revision later, I think that speaks for itself. It's a fantastic result. I mean, it even looks like he didn't tell me it's trichophytic, but it looks like trichophytic because there is some hair, looks like it's growing in the scar tissue, but it's a really nice job. And then when we look at this next case, we see a lot of thinning, but all the hair on the patient's scalp looks like it's from a previous hair transplant. I don't know if any of this is native hair. It doesn't look like it. It all looks like multi-hair grafts, which is fine. It might be really old work, but it actually reminds me of my own case when I was 30 years old. That's about what I looked like. All the native hair went away and I just had graft work. So I can certainly relate to this case. So it was only 1,872 grafts with a new strip procedure, and it's really nice growth. And what the doctor did was he followed the basic outline that the patient had. He didn't want to alter the hairline. He didn't want to, you know, look like he was trying to pull off a teenager look or anything like that. He just wanted to thicken what he had, but with naturalness, of course. And I think that this certainly accomplished that goal. And when he closed up the donor wound for this strip procedure, he did use trichophytic. And here's what the donor area looked like before, the donor scar from the previous surgery. And then this is what it looks like now. I think this is a fantastic turnaround. The patient has to be super happy. I know I would be. And these are the kind of cases for repair that I like to see. So we looked at the strip cases from Dr. Nusbaum, and we looked at a couple of repair cases. Let's look at his FUE cases, more specifically his Artas cases. 1,000 grafts, not a lot. I actually highlighted this in a different video where I was talking about different tools and how it's only the hand that matters that wields it, not the tool itself. This was 1,000 grafts placed into the hairline, and then memory serves, I think it was a year post-op. It looks great, nice and natural. There's nothing wrong with this, and I think that this is a great start off to show the rest of Dr. Nusbaum's Artas-related cases, like this one, 1,309 grafts, again using the Artas robot. I believe it was the 9X Artas robot that he's using, and strictly hairline work. But you know, when we zoom in, as usual, we've got the naturalness, the single hair grafts, the placement. It's not too much of that undulation, the regular irregularity or regular irregularity. It just looks great. And when we look at the donor area, beautiful donor area that doesn't look like it's ever been touched by any sort of surgery, much less the Artas robot. Fantastic result. Here's another Artas result that I think is really, really nice, because when we look at the before image and then we kind of zoom in on it, I mean, the guy's got a lot of loss, or a large area of loss that is could almost be classified as diffused loss, because there is a decent amount of hair left. But what's interesting about this, you can see how fine the hair is, and the naturalness of this appearance of a guy that's just losing his hair is not lost on the final result. Why? Because 1 year later, 1,458 grafts, and we look at the result. If we zoom in on this, it matches the naturalness of before surgery, meaning that all of these hairs that were placed after robotic extraction and then preparation post-extraction, it looked like there's nothing about this that would tell you it's a hair transplant. the angle of placement, the direction of how the hairs are positioned from the exit point in the scalp, and then the use of the single hair grafts and just how it all blends in, it is 100% undetectable as a hair transplant. And it's these kinds of results that I look for when I'm evaluating a clinic. And so far, like, he's doing a great job, and I'm excited to show you the last few cases. This is a case I like looking at because the final result, which you'll see in just a moment, kind of reminds me of the YouTube bodybuilder Mike Thurston. With his hairline, how he's wearing his hair. And so, yeah, pre-op, a really deep Norwood 3, almost like a combination Norwood 3 and a 3A, but 1,830 grafts, 1,830 were placed into the temples and the frontal zone. With the final result 1 year later, he's able to pull off this Caesar style, which you can't do very well if you don't have the density after placement. And so this tells me that the growth was very good. It was a high yield. And of course, the design has to be spot on in order for this to be possible. Like the angles and the direction also have to be spot on, because if the exit angle is not very good, then keeping the hair flatter like this is really difficult to do. So, I mean, that's a beautiful result. This next case is impressive to me simply because look at the area of loss. I mean, he's got a lot of loss. He's actually a Norwood 5A based on my observations, because while he's got a lot of loss on top, the crown is still fairly strong. So there was no crown work necessary. You know, if he's taking medication, he's going to be hanging on to that. But this area is still a large area to deal with, especially with only 1,850 grafts, again, harvested using the Artas robotic system, the 9X. And when we look at the 1 year result, that's incredible coverage. Forget the naturalness. Like, we've already established that he can create a natural hairline, but this is beautiful coverage for a really small number of grafts, like surprisingly small number of grafts. And the great thing is we've got video of the donor region to show that it's not been depleted. There's no sign of surgery in this donor area video. And these are the kind of case, like this really does impress me. And I'm happy to see this because it shows me that Dr. Nusbaum has a great solid skill set. And final result, we got 2,100 grafts, again, harvested with the Artas robot, and starting off with hairline work, but not just hairline work. Dr. Nusbaum had addressed the temple region, but then when we look at the back, he also had crown work that was necessary, and 2,100 grafts was used to address both areas. 6 months later, look at the hairline, again, completely natural, and then when we flip around to the crown, again, really nice whorl pattern that was established, which is the natural flow of crown hair in a circular pattern. You can't argue with this. I mean, this is really top shelf work across the board. And you know, forgive the brevity on some of these cases, but I had 14 cases that I wanted to just zip through because that is a lot of cases. I don't think I've shown this many cases from any clinic, but I did that because I wanted to establish a record of consistency for Dr. Nusbaum. I think he deserves it. And yeah, in talking to Dr. Aron Nusbaum, I find him to be really passionate about the industry and about his work. He's really hands-on. If he's performing micromotor or manual FUE, he is the one performing the extractions. He is a doctor's doctor when it comes to the procedure. And of course, he is controlling the robot if you're going to be having an Artas procedure with him. And back to his strip results, obviously very proficient with that, very natural work, which is the #1 thing I'm looking for in any doctor that's going to be a part of the Hair Transplant Mentor collection of exceptional hair restoration specialists. And Dr. Aron Nusbaum, thumbs up. Good job. And I think that if you're in South Florida or anywhere for that matter, if you're looking for a doctor that can really nail the naturalness of any result that he's creating for you, then Dr. Aron Nusbaum is certainly worth considering. So if you felt like this was a great video or you learned something from it and you find it interesting, Click that like button. If you haven't subscribed, what the hell's wrong with you? Subscribe, click the bell so you get notifications of new videos coming up, which will be soon. So thank you so much for watching, and yeah, I'm out of here. Peace.